Hello and welcome back to yet another Geek Show where you need to take off your socks and put on your Crocs because we're getting wet. I'm your host, Alex Ecker.
I'm your host, Dalton Lee. I wish we weren't getting wet right now.
Did you like that little bit of spice I threw on the end there?
Oh, my goodness. This movie.
Had to put the spice somewhere.
Did I just spoil my feelings already?
Probably.
This movie.
Oh, this movie.
Okay. So we've mentioned this before, that during what we'll call proto yet another Geek Show,
Proto Geek Show,
which is 3 or 4 years ago, where we started. I guess it was specifically an MCU podcast at the time, or at least that's all we were focusing on. We recorded Iron Man, The Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2.
Yeah.
And during Iron Man 2, I came to the revelation that I outright disliked this movie. I had until that moment thought, oh, every MCU movie is good. It's just that this one is really low ranking. And I watched it that time and I went, no, revelation time. This is actually bad. And at the time, you agreed with me.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel the same now?
On certain levels.
So high highs and low lows?
Highs and lows.
Okay.
Okay, before we get into it, just a reminder that this is a full spoiler discussion. This movie's 10 years old, so if you haven't watched it, go watch it now and then go back and watch us, or listen to us rather, talk about it. Okay, how do I want to start this? I think maybe your opinions bled out a little stronger on it, onto mine a little more than I remember. I like the character development of Tony the most in this movie, because I mean he's dying and remembering that in context, because 10 years kind of really misconstrues what your views are on something until you go back and refresh it. And I just remembered him being a drunken idiot in this entire movie. That was like the biggest point of the movie that I remembered.
You didn't remember it as him having actual lessons out of it or a reason to be a drunk. You just remembered that he was.
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of people, because like the MCU is so big with general audiences. I think there are a lot of people that have seen most or all of the movies, but have not gone back to the old ones. And I think people really, really should, because this universe is, I want to say 24 movies deep now. And something maybe you've seen all 24 of them. But if there's ones that you haven't seen in a decade, do you really know the whole picture?
Right.
So everyone, I think, really should go back to these. That said, I didn't enjoy going back to this one. And look, that's not to say that there's a specific thing where, like, okay, this is the bad thing. It's bad because this particular aspect was a total train wreck. Here's what the problem really is. Because of scheduling issues, we actually watched this movie like a month ago and just never managed to record this. I am terrified right now that I'm not going to be able to talk about this movie for more than 10 minutes because I don't remember anything. And that in itself is a problem.
That is a big problem, yeah. Now, I remember us talking about, the way that like certain things it felt like a filler, so to speak, with Tony Stark in certain aspects. Not necessarily Tony Stark, but like his side of the entirety of the Marvel series.
It was the first MCU movie to be accused of spending too much time setting up stuff that comes later and not being its own movie.
Yeah. Okay.
And now I'm kind of wondering, I've agreed, but now I'm like, maybe they should have leaned harder into it, because I don't remember or care for the story that's actually specifically relevant to this movie.
Yeah.
But I did like the interactions with Nick Fury and with
Captain
Black
America's
Widow.
Shield, Thor's hammer.
And little tie-ins like that. And now I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe this would be more memorable to me if it leaned harder into it.
Right.
If it was more of an Avengers 0.5 than it already is.
Yeah. I don't know. Let's give like a plot synopsis, I suppose would be the best thing to do here. So since I'm such a painter with words, should I take the reins?
You should, because I don't remember or understand anything with Mickey Rourke's character.
Ivan, right?
Ivan Vanko. Okay. I vaguely understand Justin Hammer, and actually I love Justin Hammer. He's fantastic. I did say the movie has high highs, and those high highs are Justin Hammer.
His character was great. He's actually like, I would say, the real villain in this movie more than Ivan.
He's a character that's so good that I am angry they haven't really brought him back.
Oh, okay. So,
there's one small exception. He has shown up in one very small place, if I recall correctly.
Was it a movie or was it S.H.I.E.L.D.? Like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
He showed up in a... I don't know if you're even aware that these exist, in a one-shot. The Blu-rays for these movies used to... One shot is a comic book terminology.
Okay.
It describes like, oh, this isn't a series. It's just a single issue that doesn't belong to a thing in particular.
I didn't know.
So in regards to the movies, one shot is a short film that used to come on the Blu-rays.
Okay. That
and they did like
sense.
5 or 6 of these, and Justin Hammer does show up in one of those.
Okay. Yeah, I'm familiar with the term. I didn't know that the Blu-rays did this. So the synopsis of this movie, Iron Man gets found out that he's Tony Stark. And
found out's not the right word.
Well, he gets confessed that he's Iron Man. I don't know
that confessed is the right word.
Well, in the ending of Iron Man 1 is where it's
I say that because confessed. I say that because confessed feels like
nobody
feels
thought
like there's a guilt there.
He said. He just
that too. Confessed feels like there was an accusation, but it also feels like there's a guilt there, and he was never guilty about it. He was like, yeah whatever. I'm Iron Man. What of it?
So he becomes this.
But this is the ramifications of that.
Yeah, he becomes this giant symbol of peace. He stops all this fighting. He brings crime and war down and all this other stuff. And then we find that Ivan Vanko.
Yeah.
Okay. Vanko. Tomato. Anyways, he sees all this BS behind Stark Industries and, blah, 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 what have you. Tony becomes this magical sexadillionaire who, thinks that he's untouchable. The military wants his equipment and he refuses to give it because they're calling it a weapon. Tony's like, no, it's not a weapon. I am the weapon.
Yeah.
You find out that Vanko, the family Vanko, not just Ivan's character, was a part of Stark Industries, who created the arc reactor that runs Tony in the suit. He wanted to sell it to the U.S. government for weaponry, and Tony Stark's dad was like, no, I'm going to have you deported. And stole all the money and the riches for it. And Ivan, watching his dad die because he didn't have the money to save himself from some sort of sickness or old age, or just plain out having to live in poverty for his entire life, wanted to seek vengeance out on the Stark family. Wow, I've said Stark family a couple times in vengeance. Now,
Game of Thrones season 8.
Right. So he teams up with Justin Hammer, who's a rich guy who's kind of boring compared to Tony. And he's jealous of Tony and wants the money and the fame like Tony does. So he enlists Vanko, who became a failed terrorist at this point in the movie, to help him make something that Stark would have done. Double crosses Hammer using his resources and tries to kill Tony instead. All the meanwhile, Tony is secretly dying in this movie from the, what is it? Palladium?
Palladium.
So Tony's dying. Nick Fury shows up and's like, hey, here's the secret ingredient. Gives him all this stuff from his dad, finds out what really happened with the Vanko family, stops his drunken parade because he realizes that he could save himself, creates a new element, fights the bad guy, everything's right with the world, and then Thor's hammer.
So let's talk Mickey Rourke.
Ivan.
First of all, just little fun fact about this character that's always been hilarious to me.
Okay.
His character in this movie is actually a combination of two different comic book characters.
Okay.
This is a combination of comic book Whiplash and comic book Crimson Dynamo. And I'm pretty sure, if I'm remembering correctly, because this was something I noticed many, many years ago and haven't really kept up on, but the actual comic book Whiplash still appears in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. later after this movie.
Okay.
The first movie also had references to Whiplash, with them apparently not knowing they were going to use him yet, in that, there's the bit where Tony kind of interferes with this training that's going on,
and he throws
they
a chair
refer to
at
the
him
Jets.
and says, "Not my fucking tempo."
They what? Anyway,
Whiplash.
Jesus Christ. Let me reset my brain real quick.
You're welcome.
Anyway, those Jets in the first movie, they referred to as Whiplash 1 and 2, if I'm remembering correctly. That's not a positive or a negative. That's just a thing I think is hilarious. Repurposing a character into something else and then still using the real one.
Right.
His character, I don't know if it's Mickey Rourke's fault or not. Probably not. I don't know. But he's completely forgettable in every way. I would be surprised if half the people that have seen all these movies remember that he's ever been in one.
Yeah, it kind of, You know how Dragon Ball Z is its own thing without the History of Bardock movie?
Okay. Yeah.
That's how Ivan Vanko felt. Just there's just a little extra here, guys. Here you go.
Yeah.
This is how Goku came to Earth. Well, this is how the Starks stole all this money from the Vanko family. You know what I mean?
And so it almost feels like it's a balance thing. Maybe he needed more screen time. Maybe he needed less. Because at the end of the day, he needed to be someone to work under Justin Hammer who is actually interesting, but didn't need to be getting into a fist fight with Tony Stark.
Right.
So I guess he needed to be there to be Justin Hammer's grunt. But in that case, go with less screen time and don't pretend he's a real character. Or flesh him out better and make us care about him.
This is why, I feel like Justin Hammer is actually the real villain.
For sure.
And Ivan just kind of feels like he was a pawn. You know what I mean?
You can also look at it and this is actually a decent idea that I think just didn't really work out the way they wanted. But you can look at it like Justin Hammer is the enemy of Tony Stark and Anton is the enemy of Iron Man. I think that's what they were really going for, but just one of the villains ended up being way more memorable than the other. And don't get me wrong, when I'm giving all this praise to Justin Hammer, I'm still not really saying that he's a compelling or great villain. It's just that, what is that actor's name? Rockwell. Sam Rockwell? Is that right?
That sounds right. Yeah. Sam Rockwell.
He's just immensely entertaining is the thing. It's not that his character has values or an interesting character arc. He just entertains the ever living shit out of me. It's just it makes me struggle with deciding whether this is an outright bad movie or not, because I have such high praise for how hilarious he is in this movie. And
now that you say that, one of the big things too is that with Hammer and Vanko, their interactions were boring unless he controlled the scene.
He was hilarious in their scenes together, and Vanko couldn't be.
Right. And
because he's not funny.
The whole scene where he took Vanko's shoes, that was a boring scene. Now that I'm thinking about it, the thing about Vanko is he doesn't really give a shit because he knows that he's going to double cross him anyway. But could you at least pretend? You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? I'm going to take your shoes.
I'm just saying that this isn't a helmet, this is a head is one of the funniest goddamn lines I've ever heard in any movie. That was
a funny one, yeah. That was pretty good.
But yeah, high praise for him. And then with Tony even, the opening sequence, him in the courtroom, is one of my favorite MCU scenes, period, because it is the epitome of the charisma that Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark is known for.
Yes, absolutely.
But again, I don't care for the plot after at all. I care that scene is hilarious to me, and he's charming while being an asshole, and seeing someone embarrass our ridiculous government always feels kind of good inside, but it didn't contribute to like telling an impactful story.
Right.
So for me, this is just, it's a movie that has great moments where I just don't care about the overall picture.
Like I said, like I really enjoyed Tony's like character progression of becoming from real cocky to real almost humbled again in a way. And we have the same thing again, like with Iron Man 1, where Robert Downey Jr. is the most interesting part of the movie. I mean, ultimately.
Yeah. And I do really like Black Widow in this movie, but did she really contribute anything to the whole? Her and Nick Fury are still really just there for setting up Avengers.
Yeah.
And then like I go back and forth on whether that's okay or not, because it's like, okay, if I'm reviewing this movie on the basis of being a movie, that's not okay. But at the same time, we're 23 movies deep. Is this really a movie, or is this an episode of a show that has now reached 3 seasons and 24 episodes?
Right.
On that basis, it's not really a problem, because it's not like I'm going to watch this movie and I'm not going to watch Avengers shortly afterwards.
Right.
We're going to have that really hard with Age of Ultron. Age of Ultron does like nothing for itself, but does so much to build up things that are coming after that it's going to be hard to dissect it and look at it and know how to fairly assess it.
Yeah, no, you're right. There's a lot of sauce here, you know, but not a lot of sustenance. Like,
sure,
that's the hardest thing about this movie. Although I do have to say the soundtrack was really good. I've been doing the Dalton route of paying attention to the soundtrack on purpose. I did enjoy the soundtrack in this movie. It was actually pretty good. Although the CGI still does not hold up like the first one did, or the effects rather. Yeah,
they moved a little closer into, it leaned heavier into CG.
Yeah, there was a lot of, I don't know, like the fight between, what is that character's name? Don Cheadle's character, Rhodey.
Yeah.
Why did I blank on that? And Tony Stark, like, it was a decent enough fight given the context.
Yeah.
But it didn't feel like it had purpose.
Other than bringing in War Machine, because comic book readers know who War Machine is.
Yeah, exactly. Although I do have to say the dialogue before the big fight with Vonko, where they were talking about that particular part, like strategically in war as a kill zone, or, you know, that part was actually really funny dialogue.
Sure.
And the fight scene there was great. But
you know what? I almost didn't think to mention Don Cheadle. Is he an improvement for you? Ooh. Okay, I wasn't expecting a mental conflict there.
It's difficult for me because, like, when you have a character that gets replaced by another actor, it's always tough because they also bring different elements to the table. But I do have to say he is better, because I'm trying to harken back to our episode previously of Iron Man, and really his character was just, what are you doing? Where are you going? I'm worried about you. I love you. Good night. Do you need anything? That kind of thing. Whereas this character is more like, no, you're screwing up, dude. Stop doing it. Okay, now you made me mad. You know what I mean?
He's more believable as a friend to Tony here.
Yes.
Is the thing for me. Well, and it's funny because technically what I've read that includes Rhodey in the comics. Technically, what was that actor's name?
Oh, shit. Editor Dalton from the future. Doing some Google foo over here.
Terrence Howard.
Thank you.
Technically, Terrence Howard is more accurate to how I read Rhodey in the comics. To me, at least, again, from what I've read that includes him, he does feel a little more authoritative and less buddy. And this interpretation of the character still is, he's authoritative in the sense that like he's trying to encourage Tony to do the right thing and be a better person and whatnot.
Okay.
But he still feels like socially, like he's a bit more on his level. He's a bit more fun. He's not goody two shoes in his effort to make him better.
Yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying.
So maybe he's not more comic book accurate, but he's still a better character to me.
Yeah. Okay. I can see that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and I think that's
their dynamic
consistent.
was pretty awful in the first movie.
Yeah, and that's pretty consistent for me. I end up enjoying him through the rest of the MCU too.
Mm-hmm.
Any other characters we need to mention?
Oh, the CEO of Goop Lab.
I think we just said all we need to say about her.
Yeah,
she's here.
Yeah,
and she's
boring and
fine. She's fine. I don't know.
It's that
take it or leave it.
Every scene that she has feels like a pushy romance.
Mm-hmm.
In an action movie, you know what I mean?
I feel like, I believe I said when we discussed the first Iron Man that she was just fine. I could take it or leave it. I didn't have a serious problem with her performance. I have a serious problem with her as a person, but not with her performance.
Yeah.
In this movie, I feel like she wasn't given anything good to work with.
That's
and
the thing.
Couldn't have really been salvaged by anyone.
Yeah, like I said, it feels like, hey, we need these romance scenes in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Or this dynamic in this movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I wasn't sold on it.
She kind of serves the role as being like one more influence to behave himself and be a better person, and
but he didn't care. He was dying.
Oh, and a reminder to him that like he shouldn't be reckless with his life because there are people that care for him.
Mm-hmm.
Rhodey kind of could have pulled all that off on his own without her. Yeah. But at the same time, if she wasn't here at all and then showed up in the Avengers and Iron Man 3, I would have been like, what was that about?
That's fair. Okay.
So I guess I don't know what else I would have done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I suppose you're right there. I don't know, man. There's just, I don't know, man. There's just not a whole lot that's fantastic about this movie. But now that I've gone back to it, like, it's weird because like it's still not like it's a good movie. It's not fantastic, but I gained a better perspective on it because of having the false memory of just him being a drunken idiot. You know what I mean?
I still border on it being bad and it being like the most middling okay ever because of scenes that are pretty good. Yeah. Like, I'm never going to do an MCU marathon and skip over it. I'll give it that.
Well, you'd miss some important characters. That's the only reason it makes it like a mandatory part. Like, it's setting up some things that you need to know later. Like if Black Widow just pops into a movie and you're like, who the fuck, where did she come from? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then like you'd be missing that aspect later. When she returns in, what movie does she return in?
You said Black Widow?
Yeah.
The next time she shows up is Avengers.
Okay. So yeah, you'd be missing her like entire like sort of not necessarily upbringing because they still haven't made the movie for her, but how she was introduced into the
they've made it now. We just we would have seen it by now if it weren't for the pandemic. But
fair enough. Okay.
But yeah, it's I don't know whether its weakness drags it down to being middling or drags it down to being bad. At this point, it's still an episode of a 24 episode series, and you may as well not skip over episodes. Who really gets mad that an overall good show has one disappointing episode here and there?
That's true. Yeah.
So I'm always going to say watch all of these anyway. But, if someone isn't interested in superhero movies and believes that they can't be like serious, good, high art or meaningfully entertaining, at least in any way, like this isn't going to change minds. It might even cause a mental hurdle in like the desire to move forward in this universe. Because if you think about it, like I tried to get my mom to watch these movies. I let her watch Iron Man. She seemed not necessarily into it, but she was surprised by what a comic book movie really looked like. I let her skip over Incredible Hulk. I knew she wouldn't like it and it didn't contribute meaningfully.
Yeah.
And then she watched this one and boy, this did not do her any favors and it did not leave her wanting to continue watching these movies.
Yeah.
So honestly, you only go back here if you've already decided you're going to watch the MCU.
Yeah, that's fair. Boy, is it going to be interesting when we do Iron Man 3, because last time I watched it was the only time I watched it, and it was with you during the college days, and I'm pretty sure we were both drunk and not paying attention to it. So that one's going to be fun.
We'll see what you remember. But okay, we don't give number ratings to these movies, but we are going to try to kind of determine a ranking, an order. So,
or we could just do
for
1
you,
out of 10.
No, I don't want to do numbers.
Hats?
I have problems with number systems. No numbers. For you, is this better or worse than Hulk? Incredible Hulk.
Better than Hulk, worse than Iron Man 1.
I think it's worse than Incredible Hulk, but not so much that I have the desire to argue about it. So.
Oh, wait. I think I just screwed up. Did I say better than Hulk, but worse than Iron Man 1?
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's what I meant. I was like, wait a minute. Did I just say it was better than Iron Man 1? No.
Okay. So from best to worst, we're currently going Iron Man 2, Incredible Hulk.
Yeah.
All right.
I think there was at least more narrative with Hulk. Like, it made more sense. Like, I'm running, and then Liv is like, no, stop. You're hurting him.
Well, now you sound like you're second guessing now. You just praised the one you were calling the worst. I mean, the mildest praise ever.
Fuck. All right, yeah, this movie's worse than probably the Hulk. now that I'm thinking about it, because like,
all right, Iron Man, the Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, and next time around we will see where Thor fits.
Oof, I have a feeling it's gonna fit somewhere different.
So, thanks for listening. We'll see you guys next time on yet another Geek Show.
You can take off your Crocs and put your socks back on now.